Good evening. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing today? I hope you had a good lunch, a good dinner for tonight because we're going into Finet SG episode 14 already. So, without further ado, please allow me to share my slides and begin right away. So, last week I shared that we are going on special highlights, and that's where we are going into part 3 of structural winners. And some of my friends, especially my clients and my loved ones, they have been listening to the same few companies, really for familiarity's sake. And this time we're going to a completely newer company, global one. So stay tuned, let's get ready, let's get started. First, I introduce myself to some of my new friends here. I'm Xian, and I'm in the business of investment risk management. So this is my professional practice. I've been a client for 6 years now. I was 25 years old back then, and with 25,000 worth of assets, then I was in a good relationship with Unicorn Financial Solutions. It was really through proper guidance from them, and also a very happy relationship to be in that allowed me to grow my wealth into 200,000 worth of assets after 5 years. So because of that and two trigger events in my life, both happened to my family, then I decided to come into this practice and really reach out to the rest of you to also have the chance to amass your wealth. So that's the birth of Finet SG, and I hope you'll enjoy tonight. Okay, disclaimer first, everything here shared is really purely informational. Anything more, please PM me or reach out to my PA who has given you those messages all the time to give you the snippets and allow you to enjoy in a very short and cracked manner. Alright, if not, let's continue. And I always begin with a question so that all of us are in line with each other. First things first. How would you like to outshine your current financial position? All of us are at different positions, and some of us feel that we're doing well, some of us feel that we're doing not so well. Then I just want to ask you this very simple question. How would you like to outshine your current financial position wherever you are? Then that will allow me to slowly unveil this company that we're going to talk about today. Okay, first things first, let's keep ourselves updated on the economy and financial market. Okay, there's not much changes, I must say. In MSCI All World Index is just an indicator for us to understand how the economy is doing. So first, we fell quite sharply from 19th February to 23rd March, 33% decline. But we did come back. This world has come back with a 42% rise from then till 27th of July. Very, just last week. And you can see 42% rise is also not equivalent to the 33% decline. So you can imagine if you are an investor yourself, if things have gone down, you might feel that it's alright, it might break even later. But you will see the effort in trying to break even will require more than what has fallen. Fallen by 33%, but rise by 42%, yet still haven't broken even. That's probably something I can highlight to some of our friends here who have been investing and probably can feel this. Okay, changes in the equities since 17 July. So if we look a bit nearer to date. So in the last 2 weeks, grown by 2%. This will help me to help you understand why is it so important to be on the structural growth companies. As you can see from last week, we talked about Microsoft. It has already gone into double-digit rise. So even if your intention is really on the wealth accumulation, then 2%, even though it's a gain, compared to 14%, I think you would be more considering on better optimizing your resources on that. All right? Okay, so just some commentary from my side, the events for the past 2 weeks. Because actually this quarter has a lot of results coming out. So in this last 2 weeks, 26 26% of the companies of S&P 500 have announced the results for Q2 2020. We have been waiting for that because since the pandemic in January, we have been always been worried, about the economy, how is it doing. S&P 500 is actually the indicator for the US economy. So 26% of the companies have announced, and 81% of them have positive earnings surprise. So 71% have positive revenue surprise. So I think most importantly, in my opinion, they have a positive revenue surprise simply because there was an expectation of decline up to 44% of it. So it's really surprising that they gone up. And in fact, only 26% of the companies have reviewed, right? So I shared last week from Mr. Bond King, Jeffrey Gunflack, that actually only the top 6 companies in the US was actually carrying all the weight of all the profits of the US. So if 26% of the companies in S&P have already announced, so I wouldn't be very hopeful about the rest. Going a little bit deeper into Microsoft, because last 2 weeks we've been talking about Microsoft. It's just that at earnings at that time, I wasn't able to prepare for you. So I wanted to share this with you. For a brief look into Microsoft earnings release on the 22nd of July. So you can see what was expected by analysts on the blue bars. Then Microsoft actually beat the expectation by 4% in revenue, 9% in earnings per share. So what I have mentioned to you about Microsoft being a structural winner, it has gone beyond expectations. Just like how you feel for yourself, right? When you're actually achieving beyond expectations, the feeling of excitement definitely comes in. Definitely the joy, right? So Microsoft at itself as well, just to round up our discussions on all of its analysis. But if you take a brief look into Microsoft earnings release, right? So this is going by quarter, in the green table, going by quarter since the financial year 2017. If you look at the extreme right, you actually see a decline in one of the revenues that they are earning from, which is the search ad. So this has caused the stock price to decline a little, even though there were some positive earnings from the rest of the sectors. Like obviously the Xbox content and services had the biggest raise. So if you're wondering, good results from Microsoft, but yet the stock price also like falling by just a little bit, 2%. So this is the reason that I was trying to share with you. Maybe there is a decline, that the sentiments are not so strong. Just bear in mind, I don't see this as a sign of structural decline at all, simply because Q4 financial year 2020 is actually between the 1st April to July. So that's really the trough of the crisis for this year. So in that sense, I guess the sentiments is quite okay to understand that people are not that confident at that moment. But I don't see it at all as a structural decline. So this is what I wanted to share with you for Microsoft. Okay, more importantly, Microsoft has also given its guidance for the Q1 of 2021. So as the numbers, as you can see for yourself, they are increasing their expected productivity and operating income and overall growth, which is a very high confidence that I can share that we are still on the path of having good analysis on Microsoft, that despite the COVID situation that is happening, they still managed to beat the beyond expectations, firstly, and secondly, also having their own confidence. The management has confidence in their business, and that's why the guidance for this Q1 2021 has also increased. Okay, so very, very positive look for Microsoft. Okay, back to this slide. So I shared, right, why the decline, there was an expected decline for the year-on-year earnings for Q2 2020. That's why it was a surprise, which I shared earlier. It was 44%, right? 44.1%. And because it was compared to Q4 2008, where the earnings decline was actually at 69.1%. That's why there was an expectation of this great decline. And just bear in mind, Q4 of 2008, right, was actually towards the end of the bottom of the crisis already. But let me ask you, my friends, do you feel that we are already at the trough or at the bottom of the economic crisis? Have a moment to think about it, because in my previous episodes, I did mention about round 1 QE printing of money and lowering of interest rates by US Federal, and that was really their push to knock out all the opponents, the pandemic opponent in round 1. But it seems like it's not over, so we might be heading into round 2. So this 44.1% may not be just yet the end. Okay? Alright, so I'm here to review, finally, what's the special highlight. So we have a new company that I would love to share more with you about today. Is this TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. It's very exciting because it's a lot of I've been sharing a lot of familiar companies that some of you might even have gone through research before, that you're just here to pick up more wisdom or another perspective of the analysis. But I feel that not many of you will have ventured into this company called TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Especially for some of my clients here who are quite keen to do other things rather than investments, but yet here to learn on snippets. Okay, to my new friends, I have shared a lot about a lot of companies already in terms of them being from cyclical growth, mature and stable, and even structural decline companies. So TSMC, just to let you know, we are looking at it from a structural growth perspective. And how I'm gonna help you to understand how to analyze for TSMC for companies is to go through these 4 tenets: business, management, financials, and valuation. I believe today I will have time to do business for sure on the business tenet. Then if there's no time, I will move on to the next week for the other 3 tenets. Okay? For business tenet, we look at both the growth and the resilience. Growth is like what? It's like playing a soccer game, you know, you're having a very good team that helps you to score goals, very good strikers. So it's looking at the growth of the industry itself, and also the market share of this company, its dominance and its trend. And for the second part, resilience, you also have got to have very good goalkeeper, right, and defenders in order not to have any other companies encroaching on your market share after you have dominated them. So same thing here, we take a look at the competitive strengths of TSMC, recurrent nature of the revenue, and its diversification. All right, jumping right into it. What is TSMC's business segment about? So it's a foundry segment. And what is foundry? Foundry is actually just a manufacturing company that does the casting of metals and molding it into chips. Okay, so this is a very, very, very specific segment, but yet it's in the world, it's in the future, the era of the future. So I think a lot of you would have understood who Intel is. Then you can see from this graph that Intel is taking care of the entire chain. First, they design, okay? Then they manufacture it, and then they also style it, you know, in order to give the supply to all the customers, the end customers, which they are focusing more on personal computer and servers. Then you can see the TSMC is in the blue rectangle there, right? It's actually purely manufacturing. So the designers come from the companies, as you can see on the bottom right, AMD, Apple, Broadcom, ARM, and all this. So they design and they share with TSMC what they would like to do so that TSMC will manufacture. It's a very important thing to take note here, because as you can see, TSMC is actually able to serve more clients, more customers in that sense, without having them feel the threat of being a competitor. Imagine yourself being AMD. You know, you're the one that's designing, fighting with Intel to design a very good semiconductor chip for some of the servers there. And then you hand it over to Intel for manufacturing. Do you think Intel will be very motivated to really do a good job for AMD? Because they are competitors, right? Of course, we can have a lot of debates on that, but you can only imagine, right? Competitors still want to help you to manufacture. Okay, so that's point number one. And in this graph, point number two is that look at what TSMC is supplying to. It's not just PCs, you know, it's not just personal computers, it's also into AI. AI itself is very amazing. Autonomous cars. Okay, that's what we're talking about, and it's the previous company I was working for. Highly passionate about it. So later I can carry on in more details on that. Okay, talking about the growth of the industry, right? Remember just now you recall. So this is an annual report from TSMC. So company expects its foundry segment revenue to really outpace the mid-single digit compound annual growth rate projected for the overall semiconductor market, excluding memory, from 2019 to 2024. Very, very good time frame for us to be really expecting a year-on-year growth. So mid-single digit compound annual growth, they will surpass it. And there are reasons why. First, let me share with you. Very important to take note, because in terms of growth, right, you can see that TSMC is actually a big brother. 50% of the market share in the world belongs to TSMC. So in terms of being a top semiconductor foundries market, TSMC is quite a pure winner in this. Global Foundries is actually a third place in terms of manufacturing, and they are already losing money year on year already. Global Foundries is also pretty big, but yet this is a very high cost, high initial cost companies segment to be in, because every equipment, even the plant itself, costs billions of dollars. Equipment costs hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's not a very easy market to venture into. So understanding that TSMC is quite a big brother here is worth understanding a bit deeper if you are investing into structural growth companies. Secondly, the competitors are dropping out, making them even stronger as the global market share leaders. So if you take a look at this, okay, so in terms of producing semiconductors, right, most importantly to understand, actually the incremental learning there is very steep. What am I talking about? So to produce the chip that really works for your phone, for example, they get smaller and smaller, right? So now it's at 7 nanometer node. And they are going, the next phase they're going into is 5 nanometer node. So that is worth just a few cell size, the size of a few cells. Can you imagine how good the technology is? Because the smaller it is, the more practical and the faster it transmits the information data. It makes it more and more difficult for newcomers who have never tried semiconductor manufacturing before to start from where they were. They could even start from micro, because now they are nano already, ma. So looking at the so-called competitors within each other, you can see that TSMC was quite the first one to start. And when I talk about incremental learning, right, which means the earlier you start, the better lah, because you will have experience and also understand how to improve. It's also quite distinct on how to become better and better, very reliant on knowledge in order to make more and more money and higher profits. Which is why Global Foundries also dropped out, because since they are also on a losing money balance sheet, it's not easy to maintain or even fight with the competitors on the left side. So they decided to just drop out of this race to become better and smaller, and just earn the margins from being just that second second generation microchips, semiconductor chips. Because in order not to lose more money, they need to make decisions like that. So it makes TSMC very, very strong in their advantage. Because when it comes to AI, just like I mentioned, right, autonomous cars, every second they are talking about a lot of gigabytes of information that needs to be driven into the car in order to make proper decisions like a real driver. So it requires better and better technology from these companies. So yeah, no shit, it's incremental learning. So competitors are dropping out. I wouldn't say too much. Used to be Intel. Yeah, that is really close competitor, but yet they said already on the 27th July that it was actually delaying its release of chips containing the so-called 7nm transistors. So firstly, they are already a few years behind TSMC, which means their learning curve have to be even steeper to outdo their competitor. And secondly, now they have this delay, which made TSMC's stock price jump nearly 10%. Or in terms of value adding $34 billion in value. Not just the stock price. Stock price, we can talk about it again in our next week. So this helps us to understand that TSMC is really worth understanding or worth considering in having a structural growth portfolio. Okay, so now we look into resilience, talking about the TSMC's advantages. What do you think is mainly TSMC's competitive advantage? Maybe I give you a few seconds. Some of our friends have already gone through this circle before. So I won't go so deep. If you need more information, you can always come to me. But let's see what is the biggest competitive advantage that TSMC has. Okay? So let me just reveal it to you. It's actually cost advantage. Remember how I shared how expensive it is to set up a plant and also to have all the machines by ASML, another structural growth company, that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to have those equipments to build all these semiconductor chips. So before you even start a business, imagine yourself having a need for billions of dollars. It definitely needs you to be in high volume, right? In your manufacturing process so that you can actually make the margin. And if you recall, just a few slides ago, the big brother is TSMC, taking 50% of the shares, global shares. So that's why it is the biggest cost advantage and the resilience in its industry, because there's really a lot to go, and to surface their R&D costs. They are also on the fact that they need to be smaller and faster and more practical. That's the main thing I want to share with you. Secondly is the intangible assets. Like I mentioned, it's not easy. It's not easy to come into this industry at all, simply because it requires a lot of R&D, a lot of knowledge, a lot of effort in order to be better and more advanced. Okay. And most importantly, in terms of just looking at its revenue, its diversification. So looking at the revenue itself, diversification-wise, the segment, it is only one segment, which makes it a bit uncomfortable when it comes to diversification. But take a look at how it's producing its revenue. So looking by platform, you can see it actually has a lot to do with smartphones, yes. And now automotive is already taking 4%. And the high performance computers, yeah, they are the ones that are also taking quite a big chunk of their revenue, but it's more diversified than you think it is. And if you recall, the customers that they serve versus Intel is really a lot more. Intel is more on PCs and personal computers and servers. So in a way, the resilience of TSMC is still there. No doubt that they had lost the contract of Huawei. I'm very aware of this very big news because of the tension between US and China is still present. And it forces the China Semiconductor Company, MSIC, to really step up their growth. But however, after analysis, it's still understanding that they are still quite a distance away from being as good as TSMC in terms of the incremental learning. So they are still pretty young. It's just that they were forced to produce their own semiconductor chips due to the fact that they lost the contract with Huawei. But still, not the time for us to review whether this is a threat yet. So it is no threat for now. And what can we do? Most importantly, I want to share these things because it's not just about sharing the wisdom. The wisdom, if you find it very useful, would be very helpful for you to really share with your loved ones and friends on what they can do from now on to manage their finances. Because the two things that we can do for now is to first allow them to be exposed to this kind of knowledge and wisdom. Just a bit of sharing from my side so that you can get started. As I mentioned quite a few series ago, remember the term TINA. TINA means there is no alternative. So in the investment game, even if you don't invest, then you are straight away causing yourself to lose in the investment game. As you can recall with the $100,000 that you hold in your bank versus the neighbor who chooses to invest instead. If you want to know more about the story, you can come back to me, PM me for it. But yes, if you see that as very useful, this information or this wisdom that I shared with you tonight, very useful. Firstly, you can do it on your own. You can start to be more exposed to the companies that you like and figure out what is it that you want for your own wealth accumulation. If not, seek professional partnership. A person like me to really understand where you're coming from and to be very specific towards your own financial objectives. I'll be here for you to really partner you on your journey for wealth accumulation. So I believe these are the two things that you can consider. And how we can come into partnership, they are in this table of 8. Okay, firstly, most importantly, cash flow budgeting, very, very good. Then talk about economic life value risk management planning. Then we can continue on wealth accumulation. So for some friends who are having more needs in terms of their multiple property assets or their high income that requires a bit of tax planning. So all this affect your wealth, right? To really optimize your assets for the overall improvement of your returns on investments. So coming in deep in discussions would be a lovely journey between me and you when you come for professional partnership. Okay, last words from Mr. Warren Buffett. As you venture into your journey choosing between the two options, just a word of advice, never invest in a business you cannot understand, which makes me very excited every week to share more wisdom. If not, let me share the last bit about me. I am able to do advisory on cash flow management and budgeting, really planning for you, and advisory on optimizing resources to increase your overall returns for your assets. So for next episode, next week, 11th of August, Tuesday, 8 p.m. every week, we will continue on the same thing, economy updates and financial updates, and most importantly, the other 3 tenets of TSMC. Okay? If you have any questions at all, please scan the QR code and let me know what are the questions that you have. If not, just contact me directly. That will definitely be easier for me to reach out to you after that. If not, I will see you next week for the other 3 tenets, my friend. Okay? Enjoy your evening. I wish you a very good night, and I will see you next week. Bye!